Had we known what it was going to take to launch this podcast, we might not have ever started, right? Welcome to the Unbridled Creative, where courage meets calling. If you've ever felt that tug in your heart, that whisper that says there's more, but you're stuck in fear, burnout, or maybe just a version of success that doesn't feel like freedom, then this podcast is for you.
And we're here to inspire, equip, and empower you to build your business with faith, not fear, and to remind you that your calling is worth chasing.
So
let's do this.
So Trent, I wanted to talk about how we started this podcast and what it has taken to bring it to life. Because, we've been doing social media for months, kind of to let people know that we were working on this behind the scenes. We've already got, 8 or 10 episodes in the can, and we're about to release it. So people are going to hear this, after we release it. But I wanted to honor the months of work that we have got into this thing and let our listeners know what it takes. Because I think a lot of times you hear podcast gurus say, hey, turn on the mic and hit record and just publish it and don't think about it and don't worry about being perfect. But let's talk through everything that we did. I sent everything to our social media manager, this big list, and I was even blown away. And I said to her, oh my gosh, had we known what it was going to take to launch this podcast, we might not have ever started, right? So the first thing we did was we bought a podcast course from a very successful podcaster. And I spent my husband and my son's ski vacation in the resort by the
still
fire.
remember that. I'm like, Laura, you're texting me all these things.
Yes.
There were hundreds of things. And I'm like, you're supposed to be on vacation. What are you doing?
Hundreds of things. Because I was so excited to start this podcast, but we'd never done anything like this before. And I'm one of those people that believes you should follow in the footsteps of success. So there's other people that have done it. Go buy a course from them because they've done it. Don't figure it out on your own, trial and error. So I spent my ski vacation by the fire, and I'm okay with that. I'm not a skier, but my first thing was just learn how to do a podcast. That was in February of 2025.
Yes.
That we started this.
That's crazy.
And then after that, I know you worked on the branding. Can you tell everybody what that was like?
Well, I know that when we first started talking about this, actually, we started talking about this way before then, because as we were on coach calls and things like that, it's funny because Laura always says that I'm her coach, her business coach, but really she coaches me too, so I've always told her that we're both coaching each other. Right. And I know we had the most fun ever when she came up to visit in Columbus, where I live, in Columbus, Ohio, to visit my wife and I. And it was so fun. We took some great pictures. You'll probably see those we've posted them already on social media.
We've got a few on social. Yeah. So you're in Ohio. I'm in Texas. We connected through a shared passion we have for a brand called Be Local. I have a Be Local in Georgetown. You have a Be Local in Columbus. And we would just have these amazing conversations about service to business owners and what they deserve to get from us as marketers and media people. And we have a shared passion for just raising up the business owner and empowering them with not only stories of inspiration, but also practical tools and strategies so that they can market with confidence and grow their business with confidence. So that's kind of how this all started. And you're absolutely right. It was months before I bought that podcast course that you and I started saying, oh my gosh, these conversations we're having would really bless a lot of people. We need to get these out on the air.
Well, and one thing that we both realized too is in our long careers, we've had careers spanning a couple decades.
Oh, don't make us sound old, Trent.
Yeah. We started when we were 5. Yes, not. But we were in so many different lanes, right? She's in the one side of the United States, I'm on the other, and different type of markets altogether, doing similar business, but sometimes you can't do business exactly the same way in different areas. And we were relating so much because we had, and I've consulted with thousands of business owners in my career also, and with Laura's experience, intense experience in marketing as a marketing consultant, and me being a branding and marketing and an artist by trade, musician, we, as we were talking, we're like, we're hearing the same things by local business owners. They go through the same struggles. Most of them don't have a clue about marketing because they know what they do best. If a remodeler has a company, he knows how to remodel or she knows how to remodel. They don't know how to market. No one went to school for marketing when they were a remodeler or an electrician, right?
Right.
So it was so important to have knowledge in regard to that. And main thing we realized is being a Christian in business, both of us as Christians, it can be difficult at times and a contrast with what the world tells us to do, right? And when it comes to marketing just happens to be a faith
That's right.
walk, and you have to have faith to market your business. And if you don't, then you're going to think transactionally. God doesn't want us to think transactionally. He wants us to serve first. And that's
That's
risky,
right.
And so with those conversations, these type of conversations right here, we thought, okay, what if we just bring others in with us? And if we can share things and we can point people to our sponsors and they'll have tools that can help them as well, even if we can help them too. But our main purpose really was just to share God's purpose in our lives to all of us, so that we don't get wrapped up in the world's things.
That's right. And to share conversations that we were already having, that we knew would bless people, conversations we have with each other, have conversations that we have with local business owners in our market. We want business owners to have an easier go of it. I mean, I would never go try to build a pool or lay down a floor. So why should someone who owns a business try to do marketing? I mean, marketing is a real profession, right?
Yeah.
So I want to honor and acknowledge us because this has been a long road. It's probably been, I guess, if you consider all the time we talked about this podcast before that February vacation where I started studying podcasting, right? We're a year in, we're a year in from when this first was like a brainchild to now a real thing we're bringing to the world. And I just kind of want to like list off everything that we did from buying a course to study how someone else did it successfully. And then you being our, amazing designer. And there's an episode where people can meet you and dive deep into your background. You're a musician, designer, you're a tech guy also. You have these amazing gifts. You created our brand. I mean, that's not something you just snap and have. You had to design a logo and draw that, and you had to choose colors and fonts. And I remember when you sent me the brand palette and I was like, oh my God, this is lovely. And, from that came a website and we had to write copy for that. And we had to set up automations for that. And we got some swag, right? Like we got t-shirts, and just creating the brand was its own thing. And a lot of times the business owners get stuck. Like, what is a brand? How do I create a brand? What does it mean to rebrand? I mean, that's something you and I both can speak at a master level about. Maybe you could talk about some of the tech. Like I say that's way over my pay grade and so grateful that you can bring that to the table. Tell them about the tech behind our podcast.
Well, there's a couple different things. Number one, our website is designed within a platform that my company designed as well called Local Lead Capture. And it incorporates website, lead marketing system, all kinds of things, right? Our lead capture software, things like that. And with that, it requires a lot of automations, workflow automations. I've got an incredible staff that helps us with that. We also had to hire a staff member to help us with the back end of our podcast for editing. And all this costs a lot of money. And
You'd be
it's not
surprised.
some, yeah, it's, I now understand why most people do not continue after the first couple episodes. And literally after we launched, we were literally the top 2% of podcasters in the world when we launched. Why? Because we launched with more than 4 to 8 episodes. I think
Right.
what is it, the most drop off at 6 episodes. So
Yeah.
here's
Yep.
my point in saying this. And one thing we did too is we used one software and then realized it wasn't going to totally work for us. And we were halfway in it. So we
That's
had to
right.
transfer to another software, which was just a hassle and extra time to do that. But I only
Yes.
say that to say there's a lot of technical things, but patience is the key. And also realizing that, just to remind you, when we started this thing, it was a faith walk for us. We are very busy people.
Yes.
We put our God and our family first, but we are busy people. Busy people
Yeah.
tend to get things done, right? And so a lot of times we're like, oh my gosh, I got all these plates spinning. But our goal, honestly, is just to be able to do this and to encourage you, the listener, a local business.
So to your point of being busy, I heard a saying about how you give the busy person the thing that needs to get done because the busy person will be the one to get it done. And have you ever heard, like, if you go to a restaurant and the restaurant is busy, the servers are busy, you're going to get a lot better service than if the restaurant's empty and the
The food's
servers
gonna
are
be
being
fresh too.
lazy, right? So we are working at a very high level, both of us in our lives, running a lot of different projects and a couple businesses and things like that. But we chose to do this because we felt called. So what we're asking our listeners to do when we say, do you have a calling on your heart? Do you have a spark in your eye? That's us. Like, we were called to do this podcast. Neither one of us like imagined this. We got called to it, and the pain of not doing it became greater than the pain of doing it. And I think maybe a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to that, is that same thing, you'll hear my story. I think we're doing that episode 2, where I talk about the courage to find my voice and
Yeah.
how the pain of not using it became greater than the pain of using it. So pain is a great motivator, isn't it?
Yeah. And we talk about pressure being a negative thing. Sometimes it's not a negative thing, right? There's amazing things created in this world with pressure, right? Time and pressure. You've heard the diamond
Right.
analogy. You take
Yep.
a piece of carbon and you create pressure on it and it will create a diamond. So we don't say pressure as a negative thing to avoid, okay? What we say is about what the world has to say. When the world says and creates pressure upon our hearts, and we are in alignment with what God is guiding us towards in the name of Jesus. And if those two aren't aligned with each other, then we feel pressure.
Yeah.
And we are to live a life of surrender, which is opposite of what the world says. The world says you need to win over people. You need to beat people out. Well, life
Right.
is an infinite it's an infinite game. It's not a
Right.
finite game, a winner loser, even though we try to play it that way. So our point is to say live unbridled, with using the analogy of a racehorse who has put blinders on, and then that rider on that horse, that's an example of, it could be your KPIs, it could be your boss, it could be the company you work for, or it could be your clients and your own business. What is driving you the wrong direction? And if it's the wrong direction or just going in circles, then maybe you got to jump the fence or you'll get thrown over.
Right. Well, that's
You
how
know?
we started to realize that this podcast had legs, is we
Yes.
started to tell people we want to create something called the Unbridled Creative. And, we simply said it was for faith-filled entrepreneurs that felt fenced in by something and they needed to break free. And everyone nods when we say that. And they say, I've been there, I've done that. And we started to hear all of these stories, and these God stories is what I would call them. They would say, well, that wasn't going to happen by my volition. That was a God thing. And so we started saying, oh my gosh, we need to tell these God stories.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I know in my upcoming book, I'm talking about fences, and on that subject, there's so many different versions of what that can be. And you'll hear me allude to that every once in a while in some of the shows, where was that a fence that you created, or was that a fence someone created around you? Was that a barrier, or was it a protection? I've got a fence client that says fences are only built for two reasons: to keep people in or keep people out. So
Right.
I
Right.
I, I kind of use that analogy, but sometimes when we look at those things deeply and then with the God filter, I remember a pastor teaching a long time ago, he drew a picture of a helicopter flying above, and he said, God's in the helicopter and you're on the ground. You have no clue what he sees. But if you're constantly trying to communicate with him, he may give you an idea of what's coming next.
That's good. Will you remind me, Trent, you always talk about what drives people, like the negative pressures, like what remind me what those are.
Yeah, it's a book that I read that was, I think it was called Prime to Perform. A lot of statistics, a lot of studies. It was a lot of truth based upon human behavior. And, and you'll hear us in our shows give a lot of examples of books like the Go Giver series and, things like that, that are just truly inspirational to us and other people. And we have some authors on the show as well, which is fabulous. But this book talked about certain pressures, which are like financial pressures, like trying to reach certain goals, certain pressures that other people are putting on you, inertia, which was something that was like everybody's doing, I got to do it too type of thing. But the thing that truly motivates us is play, purpose, and potential,
Oh, I like, yeah, yeah. Play, purpose,
right?
potential. I knew it was,
Play is, we have to love, it doesn't mean we have to love every single thing that we do, and that's the fallacy that in especially younger generation, they get out on their own. They're like, I just want to do what makes me happy. Well, life isn't that way. First of all, we have to learn how to suffer well. But secondly, we do need, God's created us a certain way. And that's what we talk about a lot about living unbridled, is living unbridled from what the world tells us that who we are and what we should do. Instead, hearing from what God has created us to be, and then explore that into the world around us and give people life-giving guidance and to have a servant mentality first. How can you not enjoy that? That's the play, right? And the
yeah,
purpose is knowing exactly what your purpose is. God created you a certain way, so this is what I'm doing. That is where joy comes in. And then potential is knowing that, wow, if I do this and I'm enjoying it, I have purpose, then my potential is unlimited based upon God's design.
yeah,
I've always said I'm not a multimillionaire, right? It takes me a few more years to do that than some others, but it doesn't matter. That's money. That's the world. What is success in God's eyes? That's the question you have to answer.
yeah. That play, purpose, potential, to me, that encapsulates this podcast and why we're doing it. We did our first episode and you and I both like wrapped that and we both said, oh my gosh, if we could do this and only this for the rest of our lives, we would
Yeah.
be so joy filled, right?
Yes.
So to us, this podcast is not work. It has been a ton of work, but it has not been work. It has been joyful, joy filled. And the purpose of it we've been called to this purpose. I feel like God picked us and said, you two were meant to connect and you two were meant to glorify my name and tell stories that I'm doing in the world and inside of the business community. And we felt called to this purpose. And I know that you and I share this also desire to realize God's full potential in our life. The couple books that I've written, I've talked about overcoming my fear because I felt more pain staying held back by fear and playing small than I did by stepping forward. And I have felt for years now that I can't leave this earth without trying to realize God's full potential for my life. So
Yeah.
a huge part of the reason that we're doing this podcast is to help other people realize God's full potential for
Yeah.
their life.
Because ultimately, at our funeral, want everybody to think about this. At our funeral, actually, let me ask it this way. The last funeral you went to, what did people talk about? Did they talk about how much money the person made and how
No.
how many hours they worked and they were at their job away from their family? No, you never hear that. We all know what's talked about. It's how they cared for us, how they cared for people in general. So it reminds me, I look in my background here. It's kind of a mess in my art studio right now, but I decided to sit in my art studio because this is what gives me joy, is to do art and to play music. And I've played music and done art my whole entire life. And it reminds me of this empty canvas here that's turned backwards, right? It's blank. It doesn't have anything on it. When you start painting, the process of painting takes time. If someone looks at it, they go, "That's kind of ugly." Well, I'm not done with it yet. Well,
Right.
that's us as human beings. God sees where what the masterpiece is. Now, this painting here looked terrible when I was first starting it, and I redid it a couple times of my granddaughters. And but the point is God, what God has planned is a masterpiece, and it takes time. It's called sanctification. That's a big church word, but it takes time to get from this point to this point. So that's why I love podcasts. That's why I love teachers. That's why I love being able to educate our minds and having all these resources available to us. And if we can be a small part of encouraging someone in the midst of that journey from
That's right.
that blank canvas to a masterpiece, from here to heaven is can be joyful, even in the mountains and the valleys, to learn how to suffer well. But in the meantime, as a business owner, we can still live a joyful life and enjoy what we're doing and serve people well. And our goal really is to provide not only education and encouragement, but provide resources and point people to resources that can help them as a local business, just as
That's right.
we've needed, you know?
That's right. I mean, we're doing that right in front of their faces right now. Like for all of you that are listening, we're creating a business right in front of you. We're creating a brand right in front of you. We're creating revenue stream, right in front of you. We're doing the same things that we want to aspire, equip, and empower you to do. We've never created a podcast before, but here we are. So now we can say we created a podcast,
That's
right?
right. Just dive in, you know?
We had to learn how to set up a YouTube channel. We had to, we already knew how to do social media because we're marketers. I think it's important for people to understand that we're marketers, but we're not, how they say, like, if you can't do, then you teach. Have you ever heard that before?
Yep. Yep.
There are marketers out there that teach marketing that have never owned a business. And that to me gives them a limited perspective. I've always said, like, what makes me a ninja when it comes to marketing is that I too own a business. So I have to eat my own cooking. I'm not giving advice that I'm not taking. So we own businesses, we market businesses, and we can relate with empathy to the business owner that needs to figure out this world of marketing, but is not a marketer. And that's a huge purpose for this podcast, is to give them, simple, fun, easy, doable ways to build their brand in the community, to be known, liked, and trusted, to reach people that don't know they exist. We'll be talking about all of that as well.
Yeah. And by the way, just to add, we've had failures too,
For sure.
along the way, but
For
we don't
sure.
see them as failures. They may feel that way, but really when it comes down to it, we learn something. I do know, when I look back on my career and all the things that I've been through, I've never been somebody that jumps from one thing to another quickly, but I've spent a lot of time building things and they overlap. And what's happened in my life is God always speaking to me about what is coming next before anybody knows. That doesn't mean I know the whole story or the end. He just says, step this way. And I'm like, and Michelle, my wife, she's like, here we go. Here's an adventure. It doesn't mean like I'm this guy that takes all these risks and I'm stupid about it. That's not it at all. I don't want to say I'm smart about it, but I know that I am responsible for people and I'm responsible for a very large family and grandkids and all kinds of things. So my decisions, just like you are, Laura, and our decisions are so important for everyone around us and clients too. Between both of us, we have hundreds of clients.
We do.
And, so it's not like we're small potatoes just trying to survive.
No.
But at the same time, we have to stay on top of things and we have to be responsible for those things and look ahead. But walking in faith, running a business, marketing ourselves, we definitely are in the midst of it. And we've never done it perfect, but we like to say more so that we're proficient rather than perfect. Right.
Well, and we'll share those stories on the podcast. Like, we'll be transparent about where we've fallen down and how we've picked up. Like, one of the values or things I believe strongly is that everything in life happens for you and not to you. And I teach that to my son. I speak that when I do a lot of public speaking,
Yeah.
which is crazy if you know my story.
Yeah.
but I believe everything happens for us and not to us. So everything that I went through, growing up as a super shy girl helped me to be grateful and appreciative and have the perspective of what it takes to have the courage to use your voice. And same thing when it comes to running our businesses. Like when we have fallen down, we've used those failures, I guess you could call them, to get stronger, to get smarter. And we'll share those stories. We're very excited to bring you this podcast. We just wanted to take a moment before we start dripping everything out to you on Spotify and Apple that we've been working on this now for a year, and it's been thoughtfully curated. Not only we created the branding, remember, Trent? We also we did all
Yes.
of our messaging. We recorded our intro, like we recorded our pilot. And then we were like, yeah. No,
There's
we're
something
not
missing.
quite expressing who we are. And it's really important to be transparent and vulnerable with who we are because we want to attract people that want to run with us in this herd. So we
And
have done things more than once.
yeah, and let me mention the herd example, okay?
Okay.
Since this is, helping with clarity about what we're doing and why. You've heard someone say before, run, oh, you're just running you're following the herd. Well, the analogy of a herd is wild horses running together. Wild horses don't run in a herd because they're just following someone else.
That's right.
They're running in a herd beside someone who's like-minded, who is also unbridled, and they are running together because they choose to.
That's right.
So when we say that, be part of the herd, that is a choice. And of course, we're going to salt your oats so that you want to drink the water. No, I'm kidding. But there are all kinds of horse examples. I could
Right.
go on a tangent.
We go really deep on that. Yeah.
Right. My book is called Wild Horses, by the way, but that's taken time too, right? But I'm so glad we've done this, not for us too, but our hearts are to serve you, the listener, the local business who is kingdom focused. What I mean by that is you put God first in your life. You put Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world, of all of us. It's our choice to receive that. But our whole entire purpose is to make sure that we're running together and encouraging one another to change the world for the better, not to do what the world says to do. We don't have 100% of the power within ourselves. We do if the Holy Spirit is there. So being clear about that. And one thing we do in every episode is we reflect
Yeah.
upon what at the end Laura and I, we talk at the end of the episode and we reflect on three main points or a couple different points. And then we align it with what the Word of God says about it, because we have to learn, how do we apply this to our life? How do we apply God's Word to our life? Because it's a mystery at times. And Jesus wasn't real clear sometimes. He told stories. And then it took us, at some point, it took people years. Even the disciples are like, what were you talking about anyway? And he had to explain it again. The reason is because those stories carry on throughout our lives so that we can then look through that with his lens, and say, okay, what does this look like in my life, in this world, that the sinful world we live in? So those are the perspectives that we bring to the show, and to hear the hearts of the people who have come on our show that has been so inspirational for me, and
Yeah.
you too. It's been
Like I
awesome.
said, yeah, the God stories that are out there. Well, I want people to know that we're not pastors. We're
No,
not pastors. We're not qualified to be pastors. We are Christ followers
yes,
that want to walk together on
yes,
this journey and invite other people, like-minded people, to walk with us,
yeah,
right?
definitely. Or run with us in a
Run
herd.
with us. Run with us. Well, thank you all for letting us just share with you kind of what's been going on behind the scenes the last year, how we got to this moment. We just wanted to have some real talk with you, that this did not just turn on the microphone and push it out. This has been a year-long project. We've met every Friday for a year. That's how you eat an elephant, is a little one bite at a time.
Yeah,
So
I
our
think we've
one bite.
eaten three.
That's right. Yeah, every Friday morning, that's how we did this. We carved out valuable time. I'm kind of a morning person. You're on East Coast time. I'm on Central time. I'm kind of a
It
morning
works out.
person. Yeah, it worked out. Like to get up and like knock it out. That's when I have my energy and my clarity. And so, yeah, this Friday morning thing has worked. And it's how we, if there's a lesson in that for all of you, is you've got a big project in front of you, little tiny steps. One little thing can over time turn into a really big thing, kind of like this podcast.
So because of how we've done it, it's going to be weekly. And we've
Yes.
done things ahead of time so that we could go on vacations. We can take breaks when we need. We can be sick. So we're working ahead. And as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of cool to go out the gate and be be the top 2% of podcasters in the world just because we stuck it through for a year.
We both have said like this is what we want to do. So don't if you do become a listener and you stick with us for years, like you might find me in Wisconsin, you might find Trent, and you like to go to the mountains, right? Is
Yeah.
it
The mountains and the beach, from the mountain to the beach. If I could find a mountain with a beach below, that would be the perfect setting with a palm tree on the top of the mountain and the bottom.
there you go. Heaven. You'll get that in
Yeah.
heaven.
Oh, that's right. That's heaven. Gosh.
Well, we're delighted that you're here with us, and we look forward to having you run with us in this herd on our journey together.
Yep. So what's our motto?
Be
Be
bold,
bold,
break
break
free,
free, and
live
live unbridled.
unbridled. Yep.
Sweet.
We will have, be sure to go to our website, theunbridledcreative.com. We did talk about all of the tech that's being set up there. We'll also be building out a resource library there for you. Not only lots of free resources that you'll be able to download and get benefit from, instantly, but some courses and books and, other things that you will be able to engage with us so that you can work closely with us as we help you to build your business and build your life in alignment with the one who created you. So,
Amen to that. See y'all. We'll see you soon.
all right, guys.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks for joining us on the Unbridled Creative.
Where we believe your story matters, your voice has power, and your dreams were planted on purpose.
And if something sparked in you today, don't let it fade. Take a step, trust the nudge, build the thing.
And if this episode encouraged you, we'd be so grateful if you'd help us spread the message.
And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Share it with a friend who's ready to build with heart, not hype.
And leave us a review. It helps more bold believers find their way here.
Wherever you are in your journey, we hope this show helps spark your hope, fuel your fire, and strengthen your faith in what's possible.
We're cheering you on, praying for you, and showing up every week to help you keep going. So, be bold, break free, and live unbridled.